My stepmother spent a decade treating me like Cinderella. Then she asked for rent. That's when I showed her the deed with my name on it. She didn't take it well. Buckle up because this is going to be a long one. Seriously, get some popcorn or something. There's a lot to unpack here. I lost my mother to breast cancer when I was 8. It was devastating, but we made it through. However, my father was completely wrecked and could barely function for the first year. My mother's parents stepped in big time. They practically moved in with us to help care for me while my dad dealt with his grief and tried to keep his business running. My grandparents were fairly well off. Not extremely rich, but comfortable enough to buy a large 4-bedroom home in one of Boston's nicer neighborhoods. The plan was that we'd all live together so they could properly raise me. And honestly, that worked well for a while. And my father met Tracy at a business conference in Chicago about 2 years after my mother died. He was there to grow his consulting business, and she was working as an event coordinator. According to him, they just clicked. Tracy must have seen an opportunity with a grieving widower who owned his own business, because she moved across the country to be with him after knowing him for only 3 months. And to everyone's surprise, they got married after 6 months. Red flags everywhere. Tracy brought her 2 children with her. Brandon, now 25, was 11 and already a spoiled brat. Sierra, now 21, was 7 and wasn't too bad at first, but Tracy gradually turned her into a mini version of herself. My grandparents tried to be kind about it, but I overheard them late at night discussing how they didn't trust Tracy. They suspected she was only after my father's money. Plot twist, they were right. But they stayed quiet for my dad's sake, since he seemed happy for the first time since my mother's death. The first few years were rough. Tracy started small with comments about how the house was decorated. Old-fashioned. How the kitchen needed updating. It didn't. And how my grandparents were set in their ways. Then she got bolder. She started moving furniture without permission. Threw out some of my mother's old decorations, claiming they were collecting dust. Gradually, she took over the home. My grandparents were too nice to say anything. My father was too lovesick to notice. Then the chores began. At first, it seemed reasonable that everyone should help around the house. Except everyone became just me. Brandon was too busy with sports. Sierra was too young, despite being only 1 year younger than me. By the time I was 12, I was doing most of the cooking and cleaning. Tracy would literally inspect the baseboards with her finger to see if I had dusted properly. Meanwhile, Brandon's room smelled like a mix of body spray and old pizza. Sierra's floor was constantly covered in clothes she was going to put away soon. Here's the crucial part, which I didn't know until recently. My grandmother died in 2019 from heart problems. My grandfather passed away just 3 months later. Before they died, they registered the house in my name. Legally, it became mine. They must have seen this drama coming and wanted to protect me, but I had no idea. Nobody told me. My father knew, but I suppose he didn't think it was important to mention. Spoiler, it was very important. Tracy obviously didn't know either, or she would have tried to get her name on the deed. For the past few years, I've been living like a servant in my own home. Cooking, cleaning, washing everyone's laundry. Yes, including Brandon's smelly gym clothes. Meanwhile, Tracy sat on her couch watching reality TV and complaining about how I loaded the dishwasher incorrectly. Brandon graduated from college 2 years ago. Barely. I'm pretty sure my father paid someone off. He hasn't worked since. He claims he's trying to be a content creator, but his social media has almost no followers and mostly consists of him doing bad dance moves. Sierra is in her 3rd year of college, ostensibly studying business, but actually just partying and posting photos of her drinks online. My father pays for everything. Her apartment near campus. Her car, which she's crashed twice. Her credit cards, which she maxes out every month. And there I was, working part-time at a coffee shop, taking online classes, doing all the housework, and trying to save money because Tracy kept implying that I needed to start contributing. The day everything changed started like any other bad day. I had just finished an 8-hour shift. I was exhausted. But of course, I had to come home and cook dinner, or else Brandon would complain from his gaming chair and Sierra wouldn't put down her phone. I was in the kitchen making pasta when Tracy walked in wearing one of her fancy-looking dresses. She sat down at the kitchen island and watched me cook. Then she dropped the bombshell. We need to have a serious discussion about your living situation. Your father and I have been talking, and we think it's time you started paying rent. You're working now. It's not fair for you to live here for free while we cover all your bills. I stood there, wooden spoon in hand, sauce probably burning, trying to process this nonsense. I asked her, trying not to raise my voice, what about Brandon and Sierra? Are they paying rent too? She dabbed her mouth with a napkin, even though she hadn't eaten anything, and said, well, that's different. They're my children. They're still establishing themselves. Brandon is pursuing his content creation career. Sierra is focusing on her education. I almost laughed. Brandon's content creation career is lip-syncing to popular songs and playing video games for a handful of viewers. Sierra hasn't opened a textbook since orientation. Then Tracy laid out her proposed rent, $800 per month, plus utilities, with the expectation that I'd continue helping around the house. Something inside me snapped. All the years of being treated like a servant. All the snide remarks. All the extra chores. All the times I had to wash Brandon's crusty socks or pick up Sierra's fake eyelashes from the bathroom floor. It all hit me at once. I turned off the burner, set down the spoon, and stared directly at Tracy. Let me get this straight. Brandon, who hasn't earned a single dollar since graduation and spends his days yelling at teenagers online, doesn't have to pay rent. Sierra, who maxes out her credit cards and has never touched a vacuum, doesn't have to pay rent. But I do. Tracy started talking about how I was more established and how family helps family. That's when I decided to drop my own bomb. I called everyone to the dining room. Brandon complained about leaving his game. Sierra acted like getting off the couch was torture. But eventually, everyone was seated at the table. I didn't care that the pasta had gone cold. I had already lost my appetite. Tracy began explaining her plan, acting like a CEO. Brandon smirked, probably thinking about how he could spend his allowance on more video game currency now that I would be paying bills. Sierra filmed everything for her social media. That's when I said the words that changed everything. I'm not paying rent. This house belongs to me. The silence that followed was deafening. Brandon froze mid-bite, spaghetti falling back onto his plate. Sierra's jaw dropped. Tracy's face went through a journey of confusion, disbelief, and then panic. Then they all started laughing. Hysterical laughter. Good one, Brandon snorted. Did you get that from TikTok? Sierra had already pulled out her phone, probably thinking this would be great content. Tracy tried to laugh too, but I could see the panic behind her eyes. What are you talking about? She said, her voice shaking. This house is mine and your father's. I just leaned back in my chair. Why don't you call Dad and ask? Tracy's fake nails tapped furiously on her phone screen. She put it on speaker. When my father answered, Tracy's voice was sweet and fake. Mark, Lucy is telling some interesting stories about the house. She says it belongs to her. That's not true, right? The silence that followed was deafening. And my father cleared his throat, something he always does when he's uncomfortable. Well, actually, my in-laws put the house in Lucy's name before they passed away. Tracy's face changed colors. First red, then white, then a strange greenish tint I'd never seen on a human before. What do you mean they put it in her name? When were you going to tell me this? I didn't think it was that important, my father said weakly. Tracy stood up, her chair scraping against the floor. You didn't think it was important to tell me that your teenage daughter owns our house? She hung up on him. The phone hit the table so hard I thought the screen might crack. Brandon wasn't laughing anymore. He looked pale. Sierra was still recording, but her expression had changed. Tracy was breathing like she'd just run a marathon in heels. Well, she said, trying to sound calm, this has clearly been a misunderstanding. Of course you don't have to pay rent, Lucy. Let's just forget this conversation happened. But I wasn't going to forget. I was done being the family doormat. Done with them living rent-free in my house and treating me like a personal maid. Oh, we're definitely not forgetting this conversation, I said, smiling. In fact, I think it's time we had a serious discussion about your living situation. Tracy's terrified expression was better than any Christmas present I've ever received. Brandon choked on his cereal. Sierra dropped her avocado toast onto her white shirt. Karma is real. Then I played the recording of her morning phone call. Tracy's face went pale. Brandon just sat there with his mouth open. Sierra was frantically texting someone. Tracy rushed up from her chair, knocking over her favorite coffee mug. You recorded me. That's illegal. Actually, we live in a one-party consent state. I checked. Also, my house, my rules. Tracy started pacing, muttering about calling her lawyer cousin who handles DUI cases out of a strip mall. Then she tried a different approach, her voice dripping with fake concern. Lucy, I understand you're upset, but this behavior isn't healthy. Your father and I are only trying to help you. Perhaps some time away would be beneficial. I cut her off. Tracy, let me make something very clear. I'm not going anywhere. This is my house. The deed is in my name. If anyone is leaving, it won't be me. That's when she lost it completely. She started ranting about how she raised me by making me their maid. How she gave up everything to be a stepmother. How I was tearing this family apart. I just sat there sipping my coffee, watching them unravel. I served them all with legal eviction notices. Tracy's face when she was served, priceless. She tried to refuse the papers, but that's not how it works. Thank you, Reddit legal advice. Brandon threw his gaming chair down the stairs in a rage. Perfect. Sierra had a complete meltdown on social media, which gained her almost 200 followers. Tracy went on a Facebook rant about her ungrateful stepdaughter. But one of my mother's old friends posted screenshots of Tracy's years of mistreatment. The receipts were glorious. Tracy's country club friends started distancing themselves. It turns out they don't like associating with people about to become homeless. Brandon finally realized that being a content creator isn't a career when you have almost no followers. He applied for jobs, but professional gamer doesn't look great on a resume. Sierra's sorority friends found out everything and started questioning whether her luxury bags were even real. The real drama began when Tracy attempted her final desperate move. She waited until I was at work and tried to steal some of my mother's old jewelry that my grandparents had left for me. Unfortunately for her, I had installed security cameras after the eviction notice. I caught her on camera stuffing my mother's antique necklaces into her fake designer purse. I called the cops. I filed a report. I showed them the footage. Tracy tried to explain to the officer that she was just moving jewelry that didn't belong to her. Her fake tears didn't work this time. The officer was not having it. I didn't press charges yet. Having it on file for the eviction case was better. My lawyer was thrilled. Tracy realized she was in real trouble. She called a family meeting to announce that she was choosing to leave because she couldn't take the negativity. She claimed she and my father were moving to Florida and had bought a beautiful house in Tampa. First, they didn't buy anything. I saw her pathetic GoFundMe that raised $43. Second, my father wasn't even there for this announcement. He was staying at a hotel. While Tracy was doing her fake elegant exit speech, the movers I hired arrived. Big dudes with crates and dollies. Tracy started shouting about needing more time. The head mover just looked at her and said, "Ma'am, we have strict instructions. Everything gets packed and moved to your storage unit today." Tracy lost it. She started grabbing random items, claiming they were family heirlooms that she had wanted to throw away last year. Sierra freaked out because her social media backdrop was being destroyed. Brandon had a panic attack because he couldn't disconnect his gaming equipment fast enough. The best part? All those designer items Tracy bragged about. Half the labels fell off while the movers were packing them. I sat on my couch, drinking coffee, watching them scramble. The eviction was finalized. They had to complete the walkthrough with the sheriff's deputy. Tracy tried to claim I'd damaged her belongings. The deputy pointed at my security cameras and asked if she wanted to file a false report. She shut up quickly. So where are they now? Tracy and my father are staying at her sister's 2-bedroom apartment. It's not going well. Her sister posted on Facebook about ungrateful house guests who don't do dishes. Brandon had to sell his gaming equipment to afford a deposit on a room in a sketchy house share. He's now working at a retail store. Sierra moved in with her sorority sisters, but they kicked her out after a week. She now commutes 2 hours to college from her aunt's house. Her latest social media post is about being humbled. As for me, the house is so peaceful now. No more smell of fake luxury perfume. No more passive-aggressive notes about the dishwasher. No more screaming from gaming sessions at 3 a.m. I converted Brandon's old room into a home office with actual designer furniture because I can afford it now. Sierra's room is becoming my dream closet. Tracy's meditation room is now my yoga studio. My mother's best friend, Elise, is now renting one of the spare rooms. She's teaching me all my mother's old recipes and helping me replace the things Tracy threw away over the years. My father calls occasionally. He sounds exhausted. I think he's finally realizing what everyone else knew 12 years ago. He married a gold digger who wasn't even good at gold digging. Was I too harsh? Maybe. Do I regret it? Not at all. They played stupid games. They won stupid prizes. Karma doesn't care about your fake desire slides. Sometimes good things come out of bad situations. This was definitely one of them.